This is the Hallowed Chambers on TVC News. I am Tijesu Adiri.
Has been a long-fought battle, long, hard road for everybody, both for ASUU, for the students, and for government. As you will recall that some weeks back ago, the House got involved in this crisis, and we had long, tough, intense meetings with ASUU. We had meetings with those on the government side, and we are happy to report that as a result of the consultations and intervention of the House, very significant progress has been made, and we are more or less at the end of the road, save for dotting some I's and crossing some T's. We agreed with ASUU and the government on certain things, which we took to Mr. President. I have visited the President twice. First time, we made our own recommendations, with government shifting some and ASUU shifting some. And we spoke with Mr. President. There was one sticking issue, which was the issue of no work, no pay. And the President did ask that he would digest the recommendations, and we'll have one more meeting, which we did on Friday after the budget. And that meeting was even better than the first one we had with him. And Mr. President had agreed to certain things. I'm not going to talk about that now, and that he would disclose whatever it is tomorrow, Tuesday, which is tomorrow, on that one remainder issue. But beyond that, the other several issues have been taken care of, where we were able to make sure that what ASUU was asking for in terms of revitalization, in terms of salary, that there has been significant improvement. Revitalization has been provided for in the budget. We made sure of that. The salary structure has been looked at, and there's been an improvement as well. We made sure of that. As you heard Mr. President say during his budget presentation, he appealed to ASUU to go back to class, and that 470 billion total has been included in the budget. The issue of UTAS, which was another very important issue, both ASUU and the Office of the Accountant General and government have agreed that they will work together, and the peculiarities of UTAS that is required for the payment platform, IPPIS, they will sit down together, and the chairman committee on tertiary education will also be part of that tripartite sit-down arrangement to include all those things that are required by ASUU in the IPPIS platform. So I believe we've covered ground, or we've covered most of the thorny issues, and it's basically what we have agreed with ASUU now is basically to put everything on paper, sign off, And I believe if we had met yesterday, ASUU and the papers had been drawn up, ASUU, I'm sure, would have called off the strike today. But we only just met behind closed doors now, and so we have to draw up the agreements as I have stated to you, and hopefully next couple of days, once, of course, ASUU has to get back to its base as well. Once that is agreed, I'm very hopeful and very excited about I won't even call it possibility or probability that the strike will be called off in a matter of days. So I want to thank the union for having come this far, for having reported at every moment that we have called you. Even today's meeting was called just today, and at such short notice that you were here, and we have met in my office, and I believe we have concluded positively. We did this and they did this as well for the sake of our students and our children, and I hope that this will be a thing of the past. So I thank you very much, ASUU. I want to also thank Nigerians for their patience and and the students having endured this many months. But I believe that this has hopefully come to an end, or will come to an end.
We don't take decisions on their behalf without having their consent. So we have agreed that between now and tomorrow, we are going to get some documentation signed that we can take to our members, and we'll do that as quickly as possible in the interest of all of us, Nigerian, and the children and the students, so that this thing can be resolved as quickly as possible. From what we have seen today, I think for the first time since this our action started, we are seeing light at the end of the tunnel, because this is the first time we are having such thing that, and we hope this time around, there will not be any attempt by any person or group to create something that will also make us run into anything again. We hope that this will be the final in the interest of our children. Our struggle, and I thank God the National Assembly are joining us, is for the educational system in Nigeria. We want to have a university in Nigeria where we should be with any money from students from all over the world and paying in hard currency as we are paying, so that the system will grow. That's why we're in this struggle. We want to have a university where the remuneration is enough to attract lecturers from all over the world, just as people are going outside. As we speak today, we are having problems. We don't notice it. We are creating so many universities, but there are no good people, qualified people to teach in those universities. But the good ones are leaving. And we just put people there, which is not good enough. We must create an environment. We are the giant of Africa, and we must act as giant of Africa. We should have people coming in droves, not we leaving. That's why we are here. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to sincerely thank you for this, your resilience, your intervention. Please let all of us working together, and the members of the House of Representatives working together, let's put a beautiful end to this thing we have started, so that every Nigerian will be proud that we have university we can be proud of. Once again, I want to thank you. Also extend our own appreciation to the President for intervening, and we do hope that this will be the last one. And I want to appeal that in future, we should not allow anybody allow strike to linger. Strike should not go beyond 2 days. If the way the National Assembly has intervened, if I had done that long ago from the beginning, they'll be allowed to do that all along. Or those who are in charge of labor and education have done exactly this, we will not be where we are today. We will not have stayed more than 2 or 3 weeks in this strike. Strike is all over the world, UK, US, all over, but they don't allow it to last. So once again, thank you very much, and we hope that working together in the next few days will help put an end to this particular
The Nigerian Senate begins legislative work on the 2023 appropriation bill presented to the joint session of the National Assembly by President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday.
Permit me to lead the debate on the general principles of the
leader of the Senate opened the floor with a debate on the general principles of the fiscal bill and recommended that the Senate sends the bill to the next stage for legislation.
The proposed 20.51 trillion Naira 2023 expenditure comprises of statutory transfers of 744.11 billion, non-debt recurrent cost of 8.27 trillion, personnel cost of 4.99 trillion, pensions, gratuities, retirees, benefits of 854.8 billion.
After his presentation, lawmakers took turns to make their contributions and suggestions on how the appropriation bill can be implemented. The lawmakers say the government must pay adequate attention to its recurrent and overhead expenditure, high cost of governance, persistent oil theft, and the need for increased revenue generation.
We cannot continue to borrow money to fund less than 1% of the population. If we do it today, we do it tomorrow. If we're alive, we will still account for it. If we're alive. This is Senate. We can't say, oh, a matter of time. Many of us have left, but those of us that decide to stay, do not stay here just to talk for 3 minutes.
We are borrowing 10 trillion, and we are losing 9 trillion. So, of course, we cannot overemphasize the fact that we have to stop oil theft, and we have to do all that is possible for us to stop oil theft. I'm glad that the government is doing something, but I mean, we shouldn't have actually allowed it to have come to this level before taking the drastic measures they seem to be taking now. But oil theft has to stop, cost of governance has to be reduced, and GOEs have to be more accountable, and of course, the platform that we are using to collect revenues is faulty, and we need to do something about it.
That a lot of resources and wealth have been taken out of Nigeria by quite a number of privileged people. So in the course of our borrowing, it is not out of place if our federal government decide to look at the possibility of having some economic diplomatic ties in this direction with nations of the world, to look at money that have been funded from Nigeria in the last 10, 15 years, especially those that came from people who have held public office. And again, in this country, Mr. President, if you go through the bank, you will see a lot of fixed deposit in foreign currency. So our nation do not need to import, to beg for money much. Let us search within us. Let us look at the banks. People who have deposited hundreds of millions in dollars and pounds in banks lying fallow. We should beg them to borrow the country back, because the country is bleeding now.
The bill scaled through second reading and was referred to the Senate Committee on Appropriations for further consideration. The Senate also suspended plenary sessions to enable its committee to meet with government ministries, departments and agencies for budget defense, and is expected to reconvene on the 15th of November 2022.
The clamor for reforms in Nigeria's military and paramilitary architecture, arising from the spike in criminal activities across the length and breadth of the country, has been intense. Underfunding, erratic delay in fund releases, limited staff capacity, as well as logistical and infrastructural deficiencies continue to hinder the work of the service. It is in addressing these challenges that the House is collating inputs into a bill for the creation of a trust fund for the service.
That the bill is rooted in solid evidences discovered from series of investigations and oversight visits to correctional centers across the country.
The quest is coming at a time Nigeria is experiencing a severe financial strain. Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila says the solution is in thinking out of the box.
The new framework proposed in this bill will best in the newly created Nigerian Correctional Services Trust Fund the responsibility and resources for training and welfare of personnel, provision of equipment, and all other material and machinery necessary for the effective operations of the Nigerian Correctional Services.
The Ministry of Interior and the Nigerian Correctional Service are convinced the proposed trust fund will ease over-reliance on budgetary allocation.
A critical or closer look and observation of the funding arrangement, because almost 70–80% of the capital allocation to these centers are used for feeding of inmates.
The Nigerian Correctional Service strongly shares the conviction that the proposed bill is apt, timely, relevant, and laudable.
The civil society community also lends its voice of support.
Prawa welcomes this bill, which, if enacted into law, will enhance service delivery of the Nigerian Correctional Service to the utmost benefit of the criminal justice system in Nigeria.
5 days after President Muhammadu Buhari laid before a joint sitting of the National Assembly the 2023 budget estimates, the bill has now scaled second reading. Plugging of financial leakages, removal of fuel subsidy, revenue generation, rising oil theft, debt servicing, insecurity, completing ongoing projects, and realistic parameters are some of the concerns raised.
I would like to, through you, seek the leave of the House to give this document a very favorable consideration, to also remember that while we are doing that we are transiting into another government. I believe Allah in His own mercy will allow us to transit into the right hands to be able to perfect honors of very good jobs or very good works and projects initiated by this government. Mr. Speaker, in the area of infrastructure, in the area of tertiary education, and in the area of supply of power, Mr. Speaker, you know there are a lot of challenges. Mr. President has allotted enough funds to be able to address some of these problems.
It is quite important to state that the things the budget do not contain are very critical. First and foremost, the benchmarks as established. We have 435 naira exchanging to the dollar. In the real market and black market is 740 naira. It's a complete distortion of reality.
I want to bring to this house that I have sat down and I have done a little calculation, and I will want you and everyone to do it. Do you know that if we are to block the crude oil theft between now and December, we can make more than 4.5 trillion.
To GDP ratio is still within the sustainable bound because it is 40%, while the international threshold or international standard for debt to GDP ratio is 55%. Our own now stands at 40%. So our debt to GDP ratio is still sustainable, and there is no cause for alarm, as raised by the deputy leader of the opposition.
Did he attend first living school certificate or secondary school? Did he attend Chicago University or State University of Chicago? And all that. These were issues that, funny enough, many of them are not coming up for the first time. The same forces that pursued him from Lagos, still pursued him to Abuja. And how do I get on the TV screen and begin to defend some of those things that I know to be mundane? This is a man I've been with for over 30 years. This is a man who knows I'm from Ekiti. Neither of my parents came from Lagos, and he appointed me commissioner in Lagos State and put me in the cabinet of Lagos State for 11.5 years under 2 governors. This is a man who I needed to go and do my master's in the US, and he paid, for me to do that. This is a man who I was lifted up from, the pool of my blood after having been shot in Ekiti, and he flew me in his own private jet to London without minding whether I'm a Christian or a Muslim, whether I'm from Lagos or any other, or Ekiti or any other thing. This is a Nigerian that I know. To be a patriot, to have a large heart. This is someone that I know has a scientific understanding of our economy. This is someone that I know, has a high capacity and proclivity to identify talents, develop them and descend them on the community, in a way that he will be able to be there to supervise them, to ensure that they're able to make a positive difference. That is the Tinubu I know. And so when I begin to just hear all manners of things, today some people will tell you he's in the critical intensive care unit in London. Some people will tell you that today, and they will so write it on social media that, if you don't know what's going on, you start wondering, Yeah, this is the man I know who has spent the last 4 or 5 days meeting with, creme la creme, of people from within the Nigerian community in all over Europe, all right, and major stakeholders, including even foreign stakeholders with very serious interests in our economy, who believe that their own interests ought to be protected. Yes, there's nothing he's doing now that he didn't take President Buhari to go and do in 2015 when they were contesting election. Buhari was in the Chatham House in London. He was everywhere. Now it is his own turn. So, if he needs to just put down the agbada for a while and put on his suit and neck and necktie and go and deal with the world, and then come back. If he has to go by what people are saying, so that they won't say, I'm in the hospital, let me go back home. It means you can't even do anything. And it boils down to, again, courage to take decisions to do what you have to do. Gentlemen, I have no doubt that, the time for a campaign is near. And this campaign, for us, is going to be about issues. This campaign is going to be interesting. This campaign is going to give us an opportunity to talk about Nigeria in the way that we know it and in the way that we can be held accountable tomorrow for what we said, and I have no doubt that things cannot continue like this, but we are in a situation where you have to even weigh, the things that you say. You have to think more about, what is to be done than you talk. But I definitely know that something positive is about to happen to this country.
That is all on our program this week. You can watch a repeat broadcast at 7 a.m. on Sunday. Also, you can see this episode again on TVC News YouTube channel. Do not forget to subscribe, like and share. Thank you for watching. I am TJ Sue Adeoye. See you next time.